Our name is Ghosts Want You Dead. A familiar but unidentifiable, coppery, vaguely sweet smell drifts in on the steamy and suffocating breeze. Darkness falls a little bit earlier each day. Through the days of stifling hot days, you feel something approaching. It will be here soon. Very soon. Hello, I'm Matthew.
And I'm Rebekah. And hot vampire summer, TM, is nearly upon us. What is hot vampire summer, you may ask? Just a thing we're trying to make happen like Fetch. Between AMC's Vampire Lestat, currently airing, the wretched book we discussed on this month's Home Troop, available at the $10 tier on Patreon, the 60th anniversary of Dark Shadows, and someone we'll meet in a couple of weeks. It's getting very vampire-y around here.
Incidentally, as we record, today is the actual 60-year anniversary of Dark Shadows. That is Saturday, June 27th. The anniversary is being celebrated in person with cast and fans in Los Angeles from July 31st through August 2nd. Sadly, we cannot afford to travel to Los Angeles at the end of next month. So we took a different Dark Shadows road trip, which you can see on Instagram and Patreon. Also, AMC's The Vampire Lestat has 3 episodes remaining this season. If you weren't aware, we're also recapping The Vampire Lestat for free on this very feed every Tuesday until its conclusion.
In conjunction with the 60th anniversary festivities, our beloved Kathryn Leigh Scott, along with John Logan, creator, writer, and producer of the 2014 series Penny Dreadful, which in our opinion had 2 great seasons and 1 terrible one.
Yes, the 2 of them have co-edited the forthcoming coffee table book, Dark Shadows Legacy, which is described in its pre-order listing as a photographic odyssey through the entire Dark Shadows universe, a coffee table book that presents the full Dark Shadows experience with guest essays and rare photographs from the original 1966 series, the feature films, the 1991 revival series, behind the scenes pictures, as well as exploring the merchandising and fan phenomena.
And Matthew got us into a fight about it on Reddit.
Sort of, because I was commenting via the podcast's Reddit account. I didn't want to get into an actual fight about it, but I'll be petty and just tell you guys about it here. And you, dear listener, feel free to weigh in on socials. But on the announcement of the book with the cover reveal, I commented as the podcast that our fingers were hovering over the pre-order button because we don't want an illustration of Ava Green, Woody Allen and Roman Polanski supporter and rape apologist, and her pal Johnny Depp, domestic abuser, on our coffee tables. We ended with, I suppose we could just put a sticker over the 2012 portion of the cover.
Someone chimed in trying to school us on the fandom, saying something to the tune of, really, it was 15 years ago. You can't just get over it. Yes, we all acknowledge the movie was bad because of one of the writers, and it turned out more parody than a straight adaptation of the series. Among their statements about the 2012 film, they said it featured overacted, campy performances, though the original plan was to play it straight, and it wasn't the actor's fault, as if to say the film didn't take the material seriously enough. I found all of that very strange because you weren't commenting on the craftsmanship of the movie.
And that's what I said. I replied along the lines of, we haven't seen the 2012 film and don't intend to. So we can't comment on the performances or the storytelling. We are simply saying that we don't want a picture of those two on our coffee tables. But what I wanted to say was, so you're scolding us for an aversion to two of the actors in the film while simultaneously jumping to the defense of the film, but also admitting it was universally reviled by the TV show fandom? Pick a lane, friend. Also, regarding campy scenery chewing, have you, in fact, seen the 1966 television program Dark Shadows? But I did not do that because I didn't want to get us in trouble with the Dark Shadows Reddit,
Yeah, we gotta play nice.
as we are extremely niche already, and that is our only potential audience.
Yeah, we don't want to ostracize ourselves too much.
But listeners, am I being oversensitive? It's an issue that we run into all the time on this podcast, viewing a 60-year-old piece of pop culture through a present day lens, even though the matter at hand is the 2012 film. We've addressed this before regarding the 2012 film. All creative productions are a group effort, and every film crew is bound to harbor some folks with views or deeds that we don't agree with. So perhaps we are just being too, air quotes, woke about it. But at the same time, after reading some of Ava Green's rape apologia and hearing some of Johnny Depp's 2022 trial testimony, I just don't want to look at those two's faces. Pity about Ava Green. I really used to love her performances. Anyway, that was the Reddit fight. I will probably buy the book, but put a sticker over those two faces.
I'll also venture to say that it does get a little different when you are paying for things. There are artists that I still like the product of their art, but disagree with them as a person, but would not want to pay for that art and support them monetarily.
I don't know that those two would be getting paid for that book because they already gave up their image rights from
Right.
that film when they signed the contract for the film. So
And I would
I
like to
don't.
give Kathryn Leigh Scott our money. So, I mean, that makes sense. I don't know. It's tricky. I loved her, and I even loved old gross Depp back when he was Edward Scissorhands and Crybaby and Benny and June. Like, Benny and June was one of my favorite movies because I also love Mary Stuart Masterson and am a crazy artist. So it was a very special place in my heart for that. And now I can't watch it because I just hate his face. Anyway, speaking about gross, rapey dudes, that's pretty much what the next 10 episodes are like. Shall we talk about Dark Shadows?
Yes, let's. Episode 201, Victoria Winters tells us that it's a chilly night, and also folks can't sleep for all the hollerin'. Roger descends the foyer stairs and he asks what Burke and Sam are doing there. Burke is vague about it, but teases Roger that he's about to find out. Roger tries in vain to keep Liz out of it, saying, like, oh no, Liz, you just go back upstairs. But Burke insists that she be present for the conversation. So Liz, Burke, Sam, and Roger enter the drawing room before the opening credits. Thankfully, we do not have to hear the entire story over again. We catch up with them at the end of Sam telling his tale, saying, the man was dead. It was Roger that I saw driving the car.
Roger denies it all at first and argues, gets sassy, and is like, it was Burke, like I've said.
We rejoin them at the end of Sam telling his tale, saying, the man was dead. It was Roger I saw driving the car, and Roger immediately argues, saying that Sam is lying and throwing a baby fit about it. He tries very hard to talk them into it, but Liz doesn't believe Roger as he scrambles and tries to reason his lies into being true. Burke interrupts to call Roger hypocritical, but he can't get the word out, as Austin pointed out on the Discord, which, sidebar, patrons, join the Discord. Come on in, Amy. Message us if you need help if you're not a Discord person.
I had to learn, Amy. You're
I
probably more savvy than I am. Gosh.
I imagine Austin is pretty bored of talking to just Rebekah and I.
And
So
mostly just you, because I'm terrible at staying on that thing.
anyway, back to the drawing room. Roger fucks up by mentioning the bribe, and Liz connects it to the paintings. Roger still tries to deny it and says that no, it wasn't a bribe. Sam was just extorting me. Roger begs Liz to believe him. He can't get out the word extortionist, so emotions are very high and nobody can get through their lines.
Also, before he blames extortion, he's like, no, I just wanted those paintings. And Sam's like, really? The paintings that you lost and don't know where are or give two shits about?
Burke points out that let's say that was true, then Sam would have come to Roger and said, I'm going to lie to the cops and say that you killed that man if you don't pay me $15,000. If that were the case, then Sam would have testified in the trial. He would have got his $15,000, but he would also had to have come to court and say, I saw Burke kill that man. Roger still swears it isn't true, and he asks Liz if she believes him. She does not. When Burke asks, she admits that she sort of suspected this all along anyway. Burke asks Liz what she thinks should be done about the matter. And her answer is essentially, well, people make mistakes.
I need y'all to forgive me for this other secret mistake that is happening that I might have done.
that is my thinking as well, but we can't tell the people yet
Well,
until they find out
they
next
know that
episode.
there is a secret and they're about to find out what the secret is.
He tells her that it is her choice what happens. And Liz decides that she's going to go ahead and call the police and turn Roger in. In the foyer, Jerry Maguire is eavesdropping, and Vicky comes down the stairs and catches him. She doesn't call him on it, but we see her notice what's happening. She asks Jerry if he has seen David because he isn't in his room. Jerry has not seen him and does not offer to help. He just says his good nights, and Vicky is cold and stank faced at him. Back in the drawing room, Roger begs Liz not to call the police. She says, I'm sorry, Roger, and begins to dial. Burke grabs the phone out of her hand and hangs up. surprised that Liz was really going to follow through. Liz is pissed, like, let's get this over with so you can't hold it over us anymore. I'm not going to have you threatening to call the police every time you want something.
Yeah.
Burke says all that he wants is for Roger to confess. Roger can't, so Burke has Sam get it started, telling the story again, and eventually Roger confesses, sounding stricken and like a child who got caught doing something bad. Burke grabs Roger and forces him to say, I sent an innocent man to prison for 5 years, and the sexual tension is palpable. Burke is content with this confession, however, telling Roger, I thought I wanted to see you rot in prison, but people like you rot wherever they are.
And that weirdly wraps up Manslaughter Club without any real revelations other than Burke needing Roger to grovel to daddy for him. Like that was it.
Elsewhere, Jerry Maguire is calling Willie to tell him about overhearing a conversation about calling the police. And I guess he didn't catch the whole thing, so he thinks maybe Liz meant call the police on them. So he warns Willie that they might have to flee quickly. Later, a figure creeps down into the dark basement. It is Jerry Maguire. David interrupts him, saying, Oh, nobody ever goes in there, referring to the locked room. But then Jerry pretends he was just looking for David, that he told Miss Winters that he would look for him. David explains to Jerry that he was just waiting around to see a ghost. Jerry thinks that David is just imagining things, but David invites him to stay and wait around for the ghost. Jerry says that he's tempted, but insists that Miss Winters is looking for David and they'd better go on upstairs. But just by way of making a casual bit of conversation, Jerry asks David, Say, what is in that locked room? And David gives a charming answer. He says, No one knows, and I hope nobody ever finds out.
Yeah, I thought that was precious too.
Jerry asks why, and David replies, Well, it won't be scary anymore if somebody knows what's in there. Jerry ominously warns that the truth can be even more horrifying than the mystery before leading David upstairs. In the drawing room, it's down to Liz and Roger. She's staring judgmental daggers at him like only Joan Bennett can, and he begs her not to make him leave Collinwood, whining that he has nowhere else to go. He begs her to think of David's future. Liz admonishes him, repeating for emphasis that everyone does terrible things, as if she has something weighing on her conscience. But he did not have to add cowardice and bribery on top of manslaughter.
Yeah, it was a pretty good dig.
Liz doesn't want to talk about it anymore and asks Roger to just leave her alone. He gives her a pathetic look before gathering himself and exiting the room. Liz paces anxiously until seeing David sneak upstairs. She wants to know why he's not in bed. He says he was just wandering around the house like he sometimes does. He goes on to ask her, does she think that facts can be scarier than a mystery? Like Jerry Maguire just told him down in the basement when David caught him trying to get into Liz's locked secret basement room? That's what we're calling her vagina, or did you phrase it differently?
Padlocked
Yes.
basement room. Thanks.
Anyway, yeah. She's annoyed and sends David to bed. David says he feels like Jerry Maguire was trying to get into that room and he doesn't believe that he was just down there looking for him. Liz, upset, is like, well, maybe, but you could be wrong about that. Upstairs, Vicky explains to Carolyn that Jerry Maguire found David in the basement, and Carolyn is suspicious. Vicky then confesses that she is also suspicious. She tells Carolyn about catching Jerry Maguire eavesdropping and his subsequent lying about it. Carolyn just knows that he's up to something. She says that Jerry is making Liz lie about the fact that they're friends and that she invited him to stay, like she's afraid of him, like he has some hold over her. Vicky is like, "Nuh-uh, our mom is badass and surely wouldn't stand for that." And Carolyn is like, well, then what do you suggest that that creep is up to? He's certainly no friend of mother's or mine or anyone's. Back down in the basement, Jerry Maguire is creeping around and a flashlight beam descends the stairs. Deja vu. He calls out, asking, David? Vicky? Liz replies, surprise, bitch, it's me.
Jerry is taken aback and fumbles for a story. Liz reminds him that she told him to stay away from her secret padlocked basement room and that no one goes in it and no one ever will. That's how I feel these. She tells him to leave and he laughs and he says he was thinking about leaving on his own, but now he doesn't think he will. She insists on telling him to be out of town by tomorrow. He says for her sake he'd better stay there or he could run into people like the police and he'd have to talk to them. He asks Liz why all the fuss about me not going into that room when I already know what's in there. He goes on to say maybe he wants to pay his respects to his good friend Paul. He then says Paul wasn't a good friend or husband to Liz, but he was a loyal friend to Jerry. He says to Liz, pity you had to go and kill him, and weren't you fortunate that you had a good loyal friend like me around to bury him for you? She asks him not to say it. He says she made him, but he won't again unless she forces him to. He smiles at her. She cringes, dumbfounded, and kind of stuck. End credits.
Episode 202. Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood is full of secrets, like Liz's husband that she killed and hid in the basement. But also, a creepy stranger has come to cause trouble.
Over at the Blue Whale, the music is loud as Willie drinks at the bar. Maggie comes in looking beautiful because she is beautiful. I love Maggie. Willie approaches the bartender, asking to buy the pretty girl a drink. The bartender approaches Maggie, who isn't interested. Willie bitches at the bartender for not just taking the drink over without asking, and then he approaches Maggie, telling her that she hurt his feelings. She apologizes and says she's waiting for someone. He insists that she let him buy her a drink while she waits. She continues to politely decline. He asks why. She says it's because she doesn't know him. He insists that she should get to know him over a drink. He sits down with her and she tells him not to. He does it anyway. He says no one tells him where to sit. Suspenseful music sting, bracing for grossness, opening credits.
Willie admits that he was being pushy, but explains it away, saying he just wants someone to talk to. Maggie wisely points out there are plenty of other people in this bar that you could talk to, other than the woman who just told you no. They go back and forth, and it is gross. He asks her then, you're not a friendly type of girl, are you? And I did like that Maggie just says no.
Oh.
Like, I thought that was good.
Yeah, no.
She assertively asks him to leave her alone, but of course he doesn't. He reaches for her hand and she pulls away. Joe turns up at this moment, and Willie condescendingly calls Maggie a little girl. He is vaguely threatening to Joe. Joe pulls up a chair, and Willie is pissed off that Joe is not only late, but now he's interrupting their conversation. Willie says, "This is a first come, first served situation, and he was first." Maggie again tries to politely exit the situation at this point. Again, just like, okay, well, thanks for keeping me company, but my boyfriend's here now, so you can go. But it does not work. Willie keeps pushing, asking Joe if he's going to stop him. And Joe says that yes, he is. And then Willie talks some shit. And it seems as though this is going to lead to violence, but Jerry enters and breaks it up, telling Willie to stop whatever he's doing because Joe and Maggie are friends of his. He tells Willie to go sit elsewhere, and he does. But on his way away, tells Joe that he could have kicked his ass if he wanted to. By way of amends, Jason buys around for everyone and tries to pacify Maggie and Joe. After Jerry leaves their table, Maggie remarks what a strange pair those two are, saying that one of them is charming and the other one is. And Joe finishes her sentence for her by saying, a creep. And she agrees. They flirt and joke, and I love them.
Yeah, they're great. At the bar, Jerry dresses Willie down, and Willie changes the subject and says he's made up his mind. He is also going to move into Collinwood. Jerry insists that this is a bad idea, and Willie is jealous that Jerry gets to live in the fancy house. He remarks on Jerry's new suit and wonders what he has for him. Jerry hands him some cash to tide him over. Willie says that won't last 10 minutes. He's impatient. Willie turns the subject back to wanting to live at Collinwood. Jerry repeats that it will fuck up everything. He's been plotting this scam for 18 years and he doesn't want to foul it up at the last minute. Willie pouts and complains some more. Jerry threatens to cut him out of the deal if he doesn't follow instructions. Willie grudgingly agrees and they kiss and make up.
Back at Collinwood, Jerry lights up a cigar in the study, continuing to make himself at home. He sits in front of the fire and relaxes as thunder rumbles outside. Carolyn enters, begging pardon for the interruption, and also calling out that he is smoking one of Roger's cigars. Jerry plays it off, though, and offers her a drag. She declines, but she does have a question for him, and he says, sure, go for it. Carolyn explains that she never met her father, Paul, and would like to know what he was like. She tells Jerry that she used to ask the family when she was little, but nobody would ever answer her, so eventually she just gave up, and that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
She wants Jerry to tell her about her dad. He says that the last time he saw Paul was the last time that Liz did. Carolyn asks him, well, what was he like? Jerry talks about Paul having a distinctive and loud laugh. He says that men liked Paul, but women liked him more. He goes on to say that he was surprised when Paul married Liz, making sure to say, like, not that there's anything wrong with your mom, just your dad wasn't really the settling down type. Carolyn asks if that's why Paul left, but Gary only says that he doesn't know. He does say that he and Paul were a lot alike. She thanks him for telling her about her dad, even though he didn't really tell her anything, and
Yeah.
tries to exit the conversation. Jerry tells her that Paul would be proud if he could see her now. Carolyn wistfully says that she'd like to think that and exits. Jerry pockets another one of Roger's cigars and smiles and goes back to smoking.
As Carolyn heads up the foyer stairs, the score dials up the suspense as there's a knock at the door. It's Willie, with all of his possessions slung over his shoulder in a pillowcase. Carolyn is taken aback, and Jason approaches, and Willie greets him warmly in front of Carolyn. Willie says, "I've been thinking, and I've decided to accept your invitation." End credits.
Episode 203. Victoria Winters reminds us that Collinwood is no stranger to creeps. But oh boy, here's another one. Jerry leads Willie into the drawing room, and Jerry is pissed. Willie remarks on Carolyn's attractiveness. Jerry repeats that Willie should not be here. He tries to send him back to the shitty rooming house that he was staying at, but Willie claims that he got kicked out and then got in a fight with the landlord. So he asks Jerry if he's going to give him money to rent someplace else, but Jerry doesn't have money to do that. So Willie states his intention to stay and also physically threatens Jerry if he tries to make him leave. Opening credits.
Willie confesses he's never been in a house this fancy. It's like a museum. He asks if people really live here. Jerry says not people like you've ever met, and they won't like you being here. Willie says they'll have to get used to it. Willie starts to make himself comfortable, saying he's tired of being an impoverished loser underdog. He's taking his place amongst the wealthy. He insists that Jerry can fix it so that he can stay. Jerry doesn't want to try, but Willie threatens to fuck up everything if he doesn't. Jerry regrets ever bringing Willie into this con. It appears Willie has won. Jerry warns him that if he does fuck up this con, it'll be the last mistake he makes. Jerry plans to introduce Willie to Mrs. Johnson, and he should charm her.
In the foyer, Jerry lavishly praises Mrs. Johnson's shirt laundering abilities, and she remarks on his old raggedy clothes.
Yeah.
He asks if there's a local charity that he could donate them to, and she is charmed by this and asks him to leave them out and insists that she'll take care of getting them where they need to go. And he continues to heap praise on her and casually slips in that Mrs. Stoddard had told her to prepare an extra room and he wonders if it's ready. Mrs. Johnson is confused. Jerry says that it must have slipped Liz's mind that she meant to ask Mrs. Johnson to fix up a room for another guest. For a moment, we think that Mrs. Johnson isn't such an easy mark, as she says, "Oh, well, I'll just go check with Mrs. Stoddard about that." And they argue about it. And he's like, "What? You don't believe me? Why you got to go ask Mrs. Stoddard about it?" Mrs. Johnson says that just doesn't seem like the sort of thing that Mrs. Stoddard would forget. But then Jerry reminds her of Liz's recent illness and insists, "Why don't you just go get a room ready and I'll go remind Liz about it?" He leads Mrs. Johnson into the drawing room and introduces her to Willie. They turn on the greasy charm and further praise her, remarking on her wonderful cooking. Willie flirts, saying, "Mr. Johnson sure is a lucky fella." To which Mrs. Johnson answers that he is dead. She elaborates that Her late husband was also a sailor, and she remembers what it was like, him being gone a long time and then coming back to land. And so she's all emotional about her dead husband, and this works. So Mrs. Johnson does, in fact, go to prepare a room. Willie laughs after she's gone, thinking that they did a good job, and he asks Jerry, "Is the food really that good?" And amusingly, Jerry's like, "Oh, no, Mrs. Johnson burns everything." Willie thinks that it's going well, but Jerry is worried about how it's going to go, telling Liz that she has another house guest. But he's not going to have to worry about that because on her way upstairs, Mrs. Johnson runs into Liz, who is coming down, and she spills the beans about Willie's arrival. Liz seems surprised, so Mrs. Johnson explains that, well, Jerry Maguire said he had permission from you to have a guest, but if that's not true, then I won't go make up the room.
Liz storms into the drawing room, demanding to talk to Jerry. He sends Willie to wait elsewhere, and Liz asks him to close the door before demanding to know what this dude is doing here and why. Jerry answers that he is what Paul was to him, a best friend who he has invited to stay. Liz is furious and tells him to send Willie away, but Jerry insists he wants him to stay. He has to remind her again that he is blackmailing her and that the rules of Blackmail Club says he can do what he wants. He reminds her how things are. She says that she won't have it. She won't permit him to take over her house. He downplays it and tells her she's imagining it. She insists he send Willie away. He further reminds her that he will turn her in for killing her husband if she doesn't do everything he says.
In the study where Willie was sent to wait, he tries out the comfy chair in front of the fire and giggles to himself, "Oh, I've really made it." He snoops and is very pleased. Victoria enters and is surprised. She says she's just come in to grab a book. And Willie's like, "Say, you're that governess, aren't you? That Vicky Winters." And she's like, yeah, what's it to you?" He tells her that he made a point to find out her name and whereabouts after seeing her at the Blue Whale. She remarks that she remembers him staring creepily at her at the bar. He begins to flirt and makes her uncomfortable, and when she tries to leave, he tries to stop her, announcing that he's looking forward to getting to know her while he's staying there. She is shocked. He implies that now that he's staying there, she's not going to have time to read books because they'll be too busy fucking. He doesn't say that in so many words, but that's what he's getting at, and he's pretty aggressive and in her face about it. She begs him to leave her alone when Liz storms in and demand that he leave Vicky alone and get out. Jason enters and asks what's going on, and Liz explains that Willie was annoying Vicky. Vicky is too polite, though, and backs down. Jerry wants Liz to leave it alone, but Liz insists she knows what she saw. Jerry suggests they forget the whole thing, and he offers to show Willie to his room. Liz stops him, but then changes her mind. She's like, Jerry Maguire. And then when he is like, yeah, she says, never mind. The gross dudes leave Vicky and Liz alone. Vicky asks her mom who these creeps are and why they are here. Liz is overwhelmed and insists they are her invited guests and please don't ask any more questions. And then she runs away, leaving Vicky shocked. End credits.
Poor Liz. Episode 204. Victoria Winters reminds us that a rapey stranger is visiting and something is up. At breakfast, Carolyn asks Vicky who that creep who showed up last night is. Vicky explains that he's Jerry Maguire's friend, Willie Loomis, whom Mr. Maguire invited, and Liz agreed. Carolyn is shocked, saying that it makes no sense. Vicky agrees and warns Carolyn to stay the fuck away from Willie, that he was bothering her and wouldn't leave her alone until Liz interrupted. Carolyn is shocked that Liz didn't throw him out right then, almost as if Jerry Maguire had some kind of hold over her. Opening credits. Carolyn says that Vicky seems frightened of Willie, and Vicky confirms that she is. Carolyn asks for details. She explains about seeing him at the Blue Whale the other night and him trying to attack that old man. She says at the moment Willie looked like a man capable of murder, and it scared her.
In the drawing room, Willie saunters in and introduces himself to Roger, who is like, "The fuck are you doing here?"
Yeah.
Roger is shocked when Willie says that Liz invited him to stay, when Liz apparently just met him last night. Willie goes on to explain that he's a friend of Jerry Maguire's and then changes the subject, asking Roger where he might get something to eat around here. Roger directs him to the kitchen, his snobbery showing a little bit. Willie asks Roger where he eats, and he replies, "The dining room." Willie says that he likes it at Collinwood and plans on sticking around. Roger is pissy about it. He gets up in Willie's face and suggests that he might not be around long, and then he exits. Once he has privacy, Willie cackles to himself like he's really having a grand time.
In the kitchen, Roger enters and tells Carolyn and Vicky that he just cannot believe that Liz has invited these creeps, and that when confronted, she told him they are her guests, and if he doesn't like it, he can leave. Roger worries aloud that she's turning the house into a refuge for derelicts just as Willie enters, inviting himself to join for breakfast. Roger is a dick, but Willie is pushy. Roger excuses himself, having lost his appetite, and Willie remarks that he must have left because of him. Vicky and Carolyn begin to exit as well, and he says, again, using third person, "What's the matter? You don't like Willie's company?" And he instructs them to come back in. Carolyn asks what for, and he tells Carolyn that he wants breakfast and he wants her to fix it for him. Vicky tells her not to argue, and he remarks on that little lady having the right attitude. He orders Carolyn to sit while Vicky goes to presumably fix his breakfast. He tries to chat and flirt, and Carolyn is cold. Vicky returns with coffee for Willie. He gives her his large breakfast order like she's somebody's waitress. Carolyn insists to Vicky that she's all right, and after Vicky leaves again, Carolyn asks Willie to stop staring at her as it's making her uncomfortable. He dismisses her discomfort, saying that all girls like to be looked at, and she insists that she does not. He asks where the action is in this town, and she feigns ignorance. He tells her that she's just the same as any girl, just richer, and that she's not better than him. He insists that she should get to know him better. She does not want to do that. He says he likes her, and Willie is a man who knows what he likes, and he likes what he sees. Ugh. Vicky returns, announcing that she has given Mrs. Johnson his breakfast order and she is preparing it. Carolyn asks if they can go now, and Willie replies that sure they can if they want to. He calls out as they reach the door, "Hey, Caroline, dot, dot, dot. See you later," threateningly. The ladies make their exit. Willie cackles to himself triumphantly again.
At the Blue Whale, Vicky and Burke are having dinner. She's been explaining how Collinwood is just filling up with creeps lately. He is very shocked to hear that Willie is staying at Collinwood now. Burke offers to beat him up for her. Willie enters, and Vicky begs Burke not to interfere. She insists that she's fine and Burke should leave Willie alone.
Willie approaches their table, and Burke is hostile. He tries to shoo Willie away. Burke reminds Willie to treat the ladies at Collinwood nicely. Willie is offended and rejects the advice and calls Burke a big man a lot. Willie is threatened and talks shit. He tells Burke he's not his real dad and he can't tell him what to do. Willie asks Burke if he wants to box. Vicky tries to stop it, and Willie tells Burke to listen to the little lady. Willie chickens out and leaves, saying the crowd is beginning to bore him anyway.
Back at Collinwood in the drawing room, Carolyn is preparing a letter for mailing. Someone comes in and she calls out Vicky, thinking Vicky has come in from her date with Burke. Instead, it is Willie, and she says, reasonably disappointed, I thought you went out for the evening. She tries to say good night and that she's going to bed, but he insists that she stay and fix him a nightcap because he doesn't know where the booze is. She points out the brandy in front of him on the mantel. He insists that she fix him a drink. She does, with her hands shaking. He has the nerve to ask her why she's always so nervous. He asks her to join him for a drink, but she declines. He asks, what's the matter? You don't have any vices? She tries to excuse herself, saying she's tired, and his feelings are hurt because he thinks she doesn't want to talk to him. He tells her that he likes her because she's a blonde and he likes blondes. He touches her hair. She says, don't you touch me. He tells her that she's clearly into him and just can't admit it. She stands up to him, and that just eggs him on. He says that he likes that she's getting feisty and laughs in her face. She tells him never to touch her again, that he disgusts her and should stay away from her. He wants to know what's going to happen if he doesn't. She says that he'll be sorry, and he says he's willing to take the chance. He closes the drawing room doors, physically preventing her from leaving the room. She warns him again as she approaches the desk and reaches into the drawer. He closes in on her and touches her hair again when she rounds on him, pointing a gun at his head. She warns him that if he doesn't leave her alone, she will blow his head off. He tries to call her bluff and calls her a little lady, but pretty quickly caves and says he'll say good night, dot, 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 for now. Nancy Barrett does some excellent face acting as she clutches the gun to her chest. End credits. This is more for the end bits, but I did want to say that while I am not a big fan of using the threat of rape as a plot device, unless the would be rapist is made quickly dead soon after, but I did like when Carolyn pulled the gun on him, and Nancy Barrett remains the MVP in my book.
Oh, yeah, she did a great job. And I agree with you. I don't care for this bit at all. Alas, we're doing it. So,
Episode 205. Victoria Winters gives her daily weather report. It's a sunny morning with 100% chance of blackmail and rape threats. Yes, Rebecca made that joke before, but I'm stealing it because it's good.
Liz enters the drawing room and surprises Carolyn, who is acting very nervous. Liz asks what the matter is, and Carolyn tells her she wouldn't want to hear it. Liz asks to see what's behind her back, and Carolyn produces the gun. Liz wants to know why she has Roger's gun. She lies at first, saying she was just looking at it. After asking Liz if she really wants to know, she says that she almost killed a man with it last night. Opening credits.
Carolyn explains to her mother that Willie got rapey at her last night and wouldn't back down or stop touching her and trapped her in the drawing room. So she did the sensible thing and took the gun out of the desk and told him that she'd shoot him if he didn't leave her alone. And she promises her mother that she really did mean that. So be mindful of the fact that you're the one keeping this dude in the house because I might have to kill him. Liz assures her that she believes her and asks her to sit down. Carolyn is sorry that she had to tell her mother this, and Liz asks what she's sorry for. Carolyn explains, well, gee, isn't that creep a friend of yours? Liz says no, and she's going right now to talk to Jerry Maguire about it to see that it never happens again. Liz exits, and Carolyn returns the gun to the drawer.
In the study, Liz confronts Jerry Maguire. He flirts and she demands that Willie leave. She explains that he tried to attack Carolyn and she had to threaten him with a gun. Jerry says he'll talk to Willie, but Liz says he'll need to make him leave. Jerry asks what if he doesn't, and Liz replies that she will call the police, and he makes blackmail threats, but Liz calls his bluff, saying that she'll do anything to protect her daughter, even if it means revealing that she killed Paul.
Jerry is like, well, damn. Liz repeats that he either needs to ask Willie to leave now or she will call the police. He asks her if she really means it, and she really does. Jerry agrees then that Willie will have to leave, but he finesses that it will take some time, maybe a few days, to talk him into it and make arrangements. Liz insists that it has to be today, but Jerry Maguire begs to be allowed to handle it in his own way, which is the slow way.
Hmm.
Liz is pissed off, but goes along with it when Jerry swears up and down that Willie will not bother Carolyn again. Jerry asks Liz to trust him again, like she did 18 years ago. I think he asks, like, you trusted me then, didn't you? And she's like, yeah. And you can see on her face that she's thinking, and look how great that's working out for me right now. But she agrees with a warning that if Willie bothers Carolyn or anyone else in the house again, she will call the police.
In the foyer, Willie practically skips down the stairs and comes up to Carolyn standing in the drawing room. He lies in wait to scare her as she exits the room. He tries to apologize for last night, insisting that she should be friendlier to a house guest. He tries to diminish her fear, and Carolyn loudly begs Willie to leave her alone. Liz's voice precedes her, booming, "That's right, leave her alone," before she and Jerry enter. She asks Carolyn to leave so they can speak to Willie. He asks what's going on, and Jerry says he'll find out. Liz calls them into the drawing room.
In the drawing room, Liz orders him to leave Carolyn alone. He makes excuses, and Liz explains that he will call the police if anything like that happens again, and then she leaves the two creeps alone. Willie makes light of the situation, and Jerry begins yelling at him for almost ruining the whole thing. Willie downplays his concerns, and Jerry orders him to leave the ladies alone. Willie says he didn't touch that little girl, and Jerry Maguire says, well, Willie, I know how much you like to rape, so I just don't believe you. Willie tries to blackmail Jerry again. Jerry talks him down, and Willie wants to know just what it is that he has on Liz. He wants to know, when does Jerry Maguire plan to collect? He's upset because the snobs at Collinwood don't like him because he's trash. And he says that if he could just get some quick money, he would just give up on the whole thing and leave. Jerry insists that they need to wait for the payoff, and Willie grudgingly agrees.
Elsewhere, Liz assures Carolyn that Willie won't bother her again, but Carolyn is furious when she learns that Willie will be staying for up to another week. Liz says she owes Jerry a favor, that he helped her out when Paul left, and that's pretty close to the truth. Carolyn pretty much says that she knows Jerry is blackmailing her, and Liz calls it nonsense. Carolyn is like, sure, mom, whatever, but I'm going to find out what's going on. She exits, and Liz collapses, exhausted and sad, in her chair.
In the drawing room, Willie asks Jason just how much money do the Collinses have, and Jerry says somewhere in the millions. Willie is admiring the portrait over the fireplace, saying that he wants to be rich like that dude. David enters and tells Willie that if he's interested in the Collins family, he can tell him lots about it.
David comes in wanting to autism at him. Let me tell you all about it.
Jerry exits, and David starts to brag about his rich family and all of their fancy portraits. He also brags about his ghost friend Josette. In the foyer, just to the right of the entryway, David points out another portrait which has totally been here this whole time. He identifies this handsome, sad looking man dripping with frilly sleeves and ornate jewelry as his ancestor Barnabas Collins, who died in England and was richer than anybody. Willie admires the fancy jewelry, asking if it is by chance still around somewhere. David says, no, not that he's seen, but Willie presses David about any other family heirlooms that might be laying around. David brags about how rich the family is when Carolyn interrupts, clearly eager to get David away from Willie, and is like, you're needed upstairs right now
Get away
for
from the rapist.
math or something.
Yeah.
Vicky needs you real bad. David heads upstairs obediently while Willie continues to admire the portrait of Barnabas that has totally been here this whole time. First on the show, we hear Willie's internal monologue, thinking to himself, what I'd give to get my hands on some rocks like those. I'd grab 'em and run. Stupid Jason is making me be patient for the blackmail money. I'm getting sick of it and hanging around this house waiting. Out loud, he says, oh, what's the use? I need a drink before grabbing his jacket and leaving. In the empty foyer, the camera slowly zooms in on Barnabas's face in the portrait that's totally been here this whole time. The sound of a heartbeat pounds. Are the eyes glowing a little, like Josette is so fond of doing? End credits.
Well, I liked Carolyn standing up for herself. I don't like all of the traumatized women. These were honestly difficult episodes for me to watch because I have been spending a lot of time this week actually reading articles and looking more at the news about said Epstein stuff and how, rape and sexual assault and all of that just ties into my daily life as a woman in the United States. Like, I don't know. It was just a big bummer for me. Everything kind of is lately. I really did find Carolyn standing up being charming, and I enjoyed Mrs. Johnson because she's just funny. You commented about David's adorable little excitement about mysteries, and I enjoyed that a great deal too because he was just being a very sweet and charming child in that moment. Like, no, I want the
I am seldom charmed by David, but every now and then I'm like, oh, that spooky little kid. So they're making a cartoon, guys. Did
Oh,
you see
yeah, they
the
are.
Did you see the announcement that there is a Dark Shadows animated series being made?
I did. Yes, that is pretty exciting. What do you
I will
think?
just hop over to the Hollywood Reporter and just read you a bit of it. Thank you, Scott Roxborough. And I quote Mr. Roxborough. Warner Brothers Animation is bringing Dark Shadows back from the grave, the cult TV show from the 60s, a gothic soap opera featuring uh, something that you're going to find out about next week, will be reimagined as an adult animation series, The Hollywood Reporter has learned. And this original series ran from 1966 to 71. Several film adaptations, most famously the one we don't talk about. Here we go. Warner Brothers Animation has said its animated Dark Shadows reboot will continue the saga of the Collins family. The official logline reads blending gothic horror and supernatural genres. This coming adaptation promises all the dark twists and romantic intrigue that find the transformational series across its 1,200 plus episode run. Lisa Holdsworth, creator of Channel 4 series Dreamers and a writer on Sky's Discovery of Witches and the BBC's Call the Midwife, will executive produce and be the showrunner on the series. Warner Brothers Animation did not give any details on when it expects to deliver the series. It does say it's still in development, so that could also mean it never happens. But that's the plan for now, and that could be cool.
I like I like cartoons. Like I enjoy a cartoon when done well.
I usually am not into animation,
Yeah.
but I do make some exceptions. Like, I think, did I already talk about this on the podcast? I recently watched the silly Netflix cartoon Haunted Hotel
I
and
think
liked
I
it.
know you talked to me about it, but I don't know if you told the people.
And I watched the other one that I can't remember the name of, about the lawyers in Las Vegas, that I only watched it because Janelle James was one of the lead voice actors and I love her, but I can't remember the name of the show now. But anyway, those are two cartoons I have watched within the last year, and maybe 2 to 3 years from now, a Dark Shadows cartoon will be added to that list.
Yeah. I want you to watch Over the Garden Wall.
I know you do, and the more you want me to, the less I want to. You know how it goes.
I know, I definitely know.
I'll watch that when you watch Mad Men or The
Okay.
Gilded Age.
All right. Well, I'll hold you to it, buddy.
As always, follow us on Instagram at Ghosts Want You Dead, also YouTube and Threads and Blue Sky and all of those things.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon, patreon.com/ghosts want you dead. Come to our Patreon. Ghosts want your money.
Please do. It will be fun. We will give you free episodes of things. Well, not free, but in for your money, we'll get episodes.
As thanks for your monetary contribution,
Yes, that.
we will talk at you more.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, this program is brought to you by Amy and Austin and Jacob. Thanks.
Thanks, guys. We love you.
Okay, we're recording 2 episodes back to back, so we're going to make this quick. Okay, bye. We'll be back in a second.
Hanging up
Okay.
now.
Yeah, well, yes.
Yes.